My name's Irene L. I'm a compulsive overeater, also a Bills fan. I'm a 100-pounder. I'm a blackout binge eater and a slow learner, and very grateful to have the opportunity to give service today. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay.
Good. Well, by the grace of... Go ahead.
Do you want me to set a timer for you or anything?
Yeah, that'd be great. Maybe just let me know when I've got 5 minutes left.
Okay, sounds good.
By the grace of God, who quite frankly is beyond my understanding, and but still is present in my life, and the 12 steps of recovery as outlined in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Strong, consistent leadership, sponsorship, forgive me, and really getting myself out of the way. I've been able to live happy, joyous, and free, and abstinent at the same time. And for that, I owe OA my life. Chiwendo, thanks for asking me to speak today. I don't know if you know this, but I was a big fangirl of yours. When I first came to the morning meeting, your light went on a couple of months before my light went on. And I hung on to every word that you shared in the meeting. And I'm really grateful that you figured it out a couple minutes before I did, because I was really paying attention to what you were saying. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. I have a lot of stress when it comes to speaking. And so I'm going to try and just follow the model of talking about how it was, what happened, and how it is now. It's always the best way. My sponsor reminds me that this is not a talk, that it is a qualification. So I'm going to try and just keep it simple. I have to tell you that every time I do a qualification, I learn something new about myself. So we'll see what I'm going to learn today. Right before the meeting started, I remembered the second OA meeting I went to. I think it was like in the late 80s. I was just making a cameo appearance, and I was down in Florida. And I remember walking into this meeting, and it was, everybody knew each other. I was a newcomer, and they didn't have a leader for that day, and the leader had to qualify, and they handed me the book. And it was only my second meeting there, and I started my story. And I remember that I came to realize how much food had taken over my life while I was doing this qualification that I didn't know how to do. And I remember talking to a woman at the end of the meeting, and saying I was very confused at what I had realized about myself. I just didn't realize that food had occupied my mind so much. I just didn't know how I got there. And I was really like stuttering and trying to make sense of it. And I remember her telling me a piece of advice I've given often. And she said, if you ever went into a forest and you got lost and it started to get dark and you couldn't figure out which way to go, would you just sit down on the ground, put your head between your knees, how did I get here? Or would you try to figure out how to get out? And I never saw her again. But that's really what I did. Was I went on a quest, and regretfully it took me approximately 33 years to find real recovery in this program. I pray that if anyone is looking for it in the room right now, that it doesn't take you that long. But it did take me that long. I want to say that there were just a couple things about my childhood that were different than most. And one is that I moved a lot. When I finally ended up at the high school I graduated from, I was in halfway through 10th grade, and I had gone to 13 different schools by that time. So since I was a little girl, I was always the new kid. I was always walked into a room by the principal and introduced to class. had to figure out how to fend myself as a new kid and make friends. And the other thing that was unique about my childhood was that I was a lock-key kid since I was 7 years old. My mom and dad were immigrants and had to work. And I guess in 1964, you did leave your 7 and 5-year-old alone at home with a key, and taught them how to walk to school, and taught them how to come home and not answer the door, and not to touch the stove, and not to touch the knives, and how to keep safe. I guess that happened back then. And I remember having a string around my neck with a key, and I was told that I was the big girl. You're the big girl. Take care of your little brother. So just make sure that you guys come home. Make sure you're the big girl. So when I was 7 years old, I started taking responsibility that I think that maybe a 7-year-old wasn't ready for. But that's the way of my life. So I did learn a few things back then, and these are stories and threads that go through my head all the time. And one was that I was on my own. Whenever my parents asked me if I was okay, did you make any friends at school? How was school? Do you like your new teachers? How do you like it? Do you make any friends? I always told them that I did when I didn't. I don't know why. They checked. They did their job. They checked. They wanted to make sure I was okay. And I just remember the words I would hear from them all the time. They would be like, see, we don't have to worry about you, Irene. You're a big girl. I just remember them saying that all the time. And I was lying right to them. I had no friends. I was walking home all by myself. I was looking at all the other girls playing with each other and calling each other and teasing each other. And I was lonely. But I would come and I'd tell them that I was okay. And by God, by the time we moved away from that school, I figured out how to make friends, because I turned into exactly what they wanted me to be so that they would accept me. So that was another thread that worked throughout my life. And the other thing was that I could not really handle any discomfort at all. I remember my first memories of eating was getting up in a house that I knew we moved away from when I was 7. So this memory is very early. And so before I was 7, I remember getting up in the middle of the night and sneaking out to get something out of the fridge and checking to make sure everybody was asleep. So somehow I thought it was wrong. And the other thing I did, I remember distinctly, it looked like I did. We're Greek, so we always had rice pudding in the fridge. So if there was a spoon missing, I just went in and just carved around that spoon so no one would know that I went in. So the third thing that's going through my head as I'm growing up is that no one knows how much I eat, really, that is my secret. And all those 3 things kept me really, really sick in these rooms for a really long time. My weight was a problem when I was a kid, but I was never an obese kid. Right now, I would probably just be called athletic. In the 60s, I was called fat and I was teased. But when I look at the pictures back then, I was just a few pounds overweight. Certainly what's happened in the country right now, with obesity was a problem. But when I started getting my own food, when I could feed myself and make my own food, certainly when puberty hit, that's when my weight started really escalating. And so I was a fat teenager, certainly a fat 20-year-old, but very social. I discovered pot and marijuana very early in my teens, and that kept my compulsive overeating at bay. I'm a 5-foot woman, so I think when I went to college, I was 160 pounds. I think that, in my 30s, I think I may have gone to 180. I was really starting to climb up. But I really, really thought all through my teens and my 20s that I had a weight problem. I really never thought that I had to figure out. And so I had the capacity to diet. I was young. I was social. So I'd lose 30 pounds, 40 pounds. I'd gain 20, 30 pounds. I was making it through. But I am an addict. So I was smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. I was a daily pot smoker, and alcohol was becoming a little bit more prominent in my life. Through my 30s, I started getting unhealthy, and I wasn't cute anymore. I mean, when I was getting loaded, or when I was starting to act badly, it wasn't landing well anymore. When you're in your 20s, you can pretty much get away with anything when you're young. But in my 30s, I was starting to irritate people. I was starting to become the person you couldn't count on. To get some bad character defects. I was always late. I didn't keep commitments. I was very self-centered, and I think back to that time, and I never really, was an atheist or an agnostic. I was just a self-centered person. I didn't not believe in God. I only believed in myself. I was raised by very gritty immigrants who told me to go out and get what I have coming. And I was very ambitious. And, I was always looking for another promotion at work. So I was just very self-propelled, but I was starting to get unhealthy. So, when I was 40, I quit smoking. I had almost a 2-pack a day habit, and, I quit smoking. It took me about 4 or 5 tries, but, by the grace of God, I was able to put cigarettes down, and guess another 30, 40 pounds that I didn't take off. So now I'm over 200 pounds, and I'm starting to get used to being over 200 pounds, which is tough for a gal my height. And, then I was recruited by a drug-free corporation, and I gave up pot. I probably smoked pot every day in my life for about 20 years, and I just gave it up. And then all of a sudden alcohol started becoming a little more important, and I started binge drinking after work. I worked in the hospitality industry. There was always booze and good food around, and that's how we celebrated good news, good reports, birthdays. There was a lot of drinking going on. My drinking became a really big problem in my 50s. And then in 2007, I went to AA, and I marked that time very, very importantly in my life, because that's really when my binge eating started. Is really when I got rid of the last of my major addictions. Now I'm sober from drugs and alcohol. I'm not smoking, and now I've got a really high stress job, and I'm eating hard. So I am working probably 70, 75 hours a week, and I'm coming home every night, and I am eating enough food probably for a family of 6 every night. And I am growing fast. So I started getting hopeless. I started thinking that maybe I had an eating disorder. I was losing the capacity to diet. And I went back to OA. Now, meanwhile, all this time in and out of OA, I just really thought that you guys were just not for me. I was way too cool for OA. It was like the Lonely Hearts Club. Every time I went to a meeting, everybody was talking about how hopeless they were, and I wasn't hopeless. I didn't relate with anybody. I was so full of myself. I thought that that nothing about OA talked to me. But now I was getting desperate, and I don't quite know how big I got. The last time I heard my weight, because I never weighed myself, I had hurt myself, and I went to the hospital, and I heard a nurse say 311 pounds. I may have gotten bigger than that, but I do know that was clocked. So I was very lucky to be in Detroit because they had amazing recovery, OA program there, a lot of strong recovery, a lot of good sponsors. And I tried. I went back. I read the literature. I joined a home group. I thought I was abstinent, but I was lying. I learned a lot and spent a lot of time trying to restrict my red light foods. And the best that I can figure, what I was trying to do was recover by not eating sugar and flour. I only looked at half of my disease. I ignored the fact that I had an obsession of the mind. I really thought that all I needed to do was not eat sugar and flour and I'd be okay. So I was eating compulsively, but many, many times over that 20 years in Detroit, I lost weight. Not eating sugar and flour and losing weight, in my head, I thought I was abstinent. But I wasn't. And I remember working the steps with a really generous sponsor, but I was lying about my food the whole time. So I'm not really sure how much of that work really counted, but I relapsed. And in that 20 years, I lost and gained over 100 pounds 4 times. And for anyone who has become morbidly obese, nothing is worse than being morbidly obese except losing it and then gaining it back. And that kind of heartache was really starting to wear me down. But, God made me strong, so I kept going in for more. I had a big life change. My mom was back in Buffalo and was always a very independent woman, and she got diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And it was moving very slowly, but for the first time in her life, she asked me to come home. And she's never done that before. She never, ever asked me to come home and live with her or anything. But she was feeling like she was losing control, and she asked me if I would consider moving to Buffalo and getting a job there. So I did. I was looking for a geographic change anyway. So I moved back home and left my high-paying corporate job and took a job in insurance, learned the insurance business for a couple of years, worked for Geico on the phone, and just kind of kept an eye on my mom for a couple of years and saw what was going on. But her disease started to get worse. We moved in together.
5 minutes.
And pardon me?
5 minutes.
Thank you. So what had happened was I was eating really, really hard and not finding recovery in the rooms and not figuring out why I wasn't recovering. So I was just out there, yo-yoing. And all of a sudden, my weight had gotten so high, and I started to really hate myself so much that I think I was dying. But now all of a sudden, somebody needed me not to be dead. Somebody needed me not only to take care of them, but to have patience, love, tolerance, and kindness. And regretfully, I had none of those things because I had so much self-hate. So in my quest for recovery, I found myself being cruel to my mother and being impatient with her. And that was my bottom. Regretfully, I did that for a little while. And I was looking for a way to stop. And that was my bottom. That was when I couldn't stand myself or my eating anymore. And that's when I reached out and started attending a meeting, and I asked a woman to sponsor me. And finally, I hated myself so much that I was willing to do anything. I don't know if that message comes across very well, because I think I spent too much time in the problem today, so I apologize. But going to this morning meeting and I heard this woman talking, she looked happy, and I wasn't. And I wanted more than anything to be happy. And I finally realized that I had an eating disorder, and I started calling it a mental illness. And I never wanted anyone to sponsor me, and I never wanted anyone to give me a food plan. And this woman gave me both. She gave me a food plan, and she said that's the only way she sponsors. And I had gotten so that I hated myself so much that I was willing to do anything. So I started working her food plan, and I started calling her every day. And this woman taught me how to surrender, because I had to surrender to her. And for some reason, I was willing to do that. And as soon as I started surrendering to her, in good, moving that focus onto a higher power. And she kept saying to me, you have choices. I'm just your sponsor. This is just advice. This is between you and God. This is between you and God. This is between you and God. And she kept moving me towards a spiritual solution. And I started slowly recovering, because I was able to put down the food honestly, like really total abstinence. And that was the first time that I had experienced entire abstinence. So I think I'm going to go over a little bit. Is that okay?
Yes. Well,
I promise it won't.
Yes.
Let's say keep talking.
Keep talking.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go over a teeny bit, but I just wanted to say that the moment that I stopped just living in half of my problem is when I started really starting to recover. The thing that I didn't get in all those years in OA was the obsession of the mind. And I had to really understand that is really what I had to worry on. And the only way I can control the obsession of the mind is through a spiritual solution. So my food plan was very regimented. I had to eat certain things at certain times. I weigh and measure. I've been weighing and measuring since September of 2023. But more than that, I really was abstaining from compulsive overeating. I didn't eat anything except what I put on my food plan. Nothing more, nothing less, nothing extra. So I had to figure out another way to handle life and to work the steps. For the first time that I was totally abstinent, now I was actually looking for a solution to what was eating me. I was looking for a solution. Since I was a little girl, instead of learning how to cope with anything, I just ate. So all those years in OA, I still ate. Even if it was just a cheese cube or just a pickle spear, I was still eating. Where now I was totally abstinent and it was just me and life. So when I did the steps with this sponsor for the first time, I was able to get honest, and I was able to understand how I needed to work the tools to stay abstinent and how to learn how to live life. So what I do right now is that I am sponsored. I make a call every day. I still eat 3 weighed and measured meals. I sponsor 4 women. I have the honor of sponsoring 4 women. I attend a meeting every morning at 7 a.m., the same meeting that saved my life. I attend it every day. I give service whenever I can. And I'm happy and I'm abstinent. And that's the first time I can say that. I was there for my mom when she passed away. I have said goodbye to several family members since that time. And I have also learned how to live without excess food. I just want to say two things before I wrap it up. One is, I'm living a life that I had no idea was available to me. I had no idea. It's beyond my wildest dreams. When I fantasized about being thin or well, I never thought that it would be this good. Sometimes I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning just to use the restroom, and I'm bummed that I have to go back to bed. I want to start my day so bad. And I was suicidal when I came into these rooms 2 years ago. That's the difference in my life, you know? And the other thing I wanted to say is that somebody said something in a meeting just 2 days ago, and they said that this is a real place about our meeting. This is a real place. And I just really feel like that's what OA is to me. It's a real place. We all came in with different disorders, but we have a common solution, as the big book says. And until I started to get myself out of the way and listen to the solution and start really working it, I was not alive. So I feel like I came alive 2 years ago when I finally did put down the food. So I'm going to go ahead and pass there. Again, I feel like my story may have been a little disjointed, but I thank you for letting me tell it.